Hello, this is my solution to the assignment 7 from Maximilian Schwarzmüller's course Angular the Complete Guide. This one is about reactive forms, and before diving into any detail about this assignment, I'd like to show you this brand new created project, and I just created it with ngNew, as you can see here, and I'm going to show my first steps before starting the solution for the assignment. Before anything, I'm going to clear the HTML file from the app component template, and then on the TypeScript code, I'm going to delete this title property, which is automatically created too, and then I'm going to import the Reactive Forms module into our app module. And Max, the teacher for this course, uses Bootstrap to show something more pleasant to the eye, something more beautiful for the students. But as this is not an exercise on CSS, I'm going to simply type something here instead of to spread the elements around the form instead of installing Bootstrap. So for the elements P, input, select, and span, I'm going to be using margin of 10 pixels, and I'm going to use a display block. This way they won't be very close to each other. And I think that's it. These are my first configurations, and there are some functions in this exercise which won't be allowed because of this strict true configuration. If your project is set to strict true, if you're creating something like this, like the solution I'm going to show, you must set strict to false, because we're going to create a function with a defined return type, and there is a certain point when creating custom validators where you return null, a null value, so the compiler won't let you compile because of this strict true configuration here. Okay, I think these are the main points to configure before starting the assignment. So our project is clean, and let's take a look at the requirements for this one. Assignment 7, practicing reactive forms. Create a form with the following controls and validators. We're going to have a project name, an email, and a subject status drop-down. These are the three fields we're going to have in our form, and the fourth one will be the submit button. There are some validations here, but we can check it later. Let's create this structure first. So the first step is to create a form, and unlike the template-driven approach, here we're going to use the form group property instead of the ng form, and this form group points to a object in the component class, so that we can link our template with our model in TypeScript code. So We're going to create a form here. It's going to be, I'll name it project form. It's going to be form group. And it's going to be instantiated as a new form group. And it takes as a parameter the model of the elements of our form. So we're going to have a project name, an email, and a project status. So we'll create here a name, which is going to be new form control with a initial value of null. And I'll do the same for email and status. And we must import this class from Angular Forms. That's it. We have our initial object here. And now let's create the project name in the form. And well, before that, let's point the form group in our form HTML element to the project form, and which is in our TypeScript code. So inside here, we're gonna have the project name as the first control in this form. So here I'm going to create a label for the element name, which is going to be created project name, and the project name may be an input field of type text. Let's pass this ID so that the label can create the link here, and I must use a property called form control name so that we can link this control here to this property here inside our form group. That's it. There it is. And well, there is a step here at the ending that says, upon submitting the form, simply print the value to the console. I'm gonna do it now because we can already see this object here being fed with the information from our form. So I'll create at the end of the form a button of type submit, and I will use the ng submit event binding pointing to the function onSubmit, and the function onSubmit will simply log to the console our project form. That's it. So let's take a look at this object. Project name, test, project, submit, and here at value, we can see that our email is null. We don't have a control for email. The status is null, but the name is test project. Okay, it's working till now. And we must have this validation. It should not be empty. So we're gonna add a validators dot required. This way it's gonna be an invalid control. And let's add a disabled property binding here so that the button to submit won't be enabled if there is some field invalid in our form. So if project form is invalid, it's going to be disabled. That's it. So we can see that it's working. If the project name is empty, our submit button is disabled. But it would be nice if we could have a more visual representation for this invalid field. So let's add for input fields which hold the class ng-invalid and ng-touched a border of a red border of 1px, so that we have a clearer representation for this validation. And we might also check here if project form gets name, if it's invalid, and if it's touched. Let's show a message like a project name is required. Let's see if it works. Yes, it works. If I type something, this error message disappears. That's it. Step 1 is complete. And there is this step 2. Email should not be empty and must be a valid email. So let's add this field. Email. It can be almost the same. Which is already created for the name input. It's going to be of type email. It's going to point at our control name email, and I'm just changing the names here, and let me see, I think it's okay. And I must add the validations here. As we're going to work with more than one validation, we must add an array of validators. We're going to use required and email. Let's see here. Project name is required, email is required. And okay. Here we have a problem because this error here is different. We have the validation required, and that means it checks if the field is empty, and there is this validation called email, which checks if it's a valid email. So we are showing only one message for the two situations, and it would be nice if we could change this error message here according to the error that is occurring. So I will turn this span field into a div, and inside this div I will create two span elements. The first one will show if project form dot get email dot errors has in its array required. That means that this field is empty, so we're going to show the message email is required. Else if let me copy this, it's going to be quicker. If we have email in our list of errors, this means that the email is the user typed something in the field, but it's not a valid email, so we're going to show the message email is invalid. Let's see if it works now. Empty field, email is required. Invalid email. That's it. We have a good validation here. And step 3, project status dropdown with 3 values: stable, critical, and finished. Okay. Project status. We're going to have a select field called status. And inside here, we're going to have 3 options: stable, critical, and finished. Stable, critical, and finished. And we're going to use form control name status so that this field points to this field. I think that's it. Let's see if it works. Project name, project solving Angular exercises. Email solving at angular.com. And well, we need a label for this field. I forgot to add it. It's going to be for status field, and it's going to be called project status. Let's see here. Project name solving Angular exercises, and the project status is stable. Let's submit and see its value. Email solving at angular.com. Okay. Name solving Angular exercises. Okay. And status is stable. Okay. But here we have a problem because the exercise doesn't ask us to create some validation for this field project status. So we have 2 options for not letting it know. We may, since the very beginning, pass this field with the value stable, or we can create a validators that required for this field too. Like this. Project status is required. Okay, it's not showing the red border around the component, so let us add the same style here for select fields. Okay, it's working, and there is the submit button, which should simply print the value to the console, which we are already doing. And our next step here, we have these 2 steps to complete. Our next step is to add our own validator, which doesn't allow test as a project name. Okay, so let me create a function. Project name is test, which is gonna receive a form control as a parameter. It's going to be of type we'll have a key value pair here, and here we're going to check if form control that value is test. Then we're going to return a new object. Project name is test, returning true. Else we're going to return null. And we'll simply add this project, this validator into our validations here. Let's see if it works. Empty project name. Testing works, but what about test? Okay, the validation is working, but here we have the same issue with the correct error message, and we may solve it the same way we did with the email. And here you're going to simply check this value, which is going to be inside the array of controls and inside the array of errors. And for required, we're going to show project name is required. And for project name is test, we're going to show project name is invalid. Let's see if it works. Project name is required. And test, project name is invalid. That's it, it's working. And the final step here is also implement that validator as a sync validator, replace the other one. Okay, so I will add a comment here. Saying that this is the synchronous custom validator for project name. And here we have the asynchronous custom validator for project name. Async project name is test. This too is going to have this parameter form control, and its type will be promise of any type or an observable of any type. And here we're going to import our XJS, and we're going to create a promise. It's going to be a new promise. Inside here, we're going to have the resolve and the reject callback functions as any promise does. And here we have set timeout. I'm gonna do it for 1 second, 1.5 seconds, and I'm gonna execute this function which says it checks if form control.value is test. In a positive case, it will resolve passing this object. else we will resolve passing no. And at the end of this function, we're going to return our promise. That's it. This is the way the course teaches us to do. And I said at the beginning of this video that this strict must be set to false to be able to solve this assignment. And this is because if we set this to true, we can see that we have an error here because we're returning null at a function which expects this key value pair, and this strict is a here's the description for this configuration. Enable all strict type checking options. So here we're checking strict types for return types too, and the compiler doesn't accept a function which returns null when it's defined as a key value per return type. So if we set this to false, this error is happening, and this only works at Max's, at our teacher's project, because he sets this strict value to false. So this is a must for solving this exercise. There must be some workaround, but the way he teaches it in his course, this is the solution. Now let's use this asynchronous function. The requirements here, they ask us to replace the other validator with this new asynchronous validator. So we're going to be removing this old validation here, and we're going to be passing this new validation. Let's see if it works now. You must take 1.5 seconds to show us the message that this project name is invalid. So let's type here test and wait. Yes, it took a while to show us. Let's do it again. Test. That's it. It's working. Let me see. I think that's it. I think this assignment is complete. And as always, the link to the course will be at this video's description, and the link for this for the solutions of the assignments from this course, including this one, including the assignments 7, which I'll be uploading to this repository. The link to this repository will be at the video's description too. So I see you in the next assignment.